person defining in his or her own way. Some people referring them to actually as government, others referring them as involvement of others as policy making. So you will find that it lacks it creates definitional debates. There is disagreement. There is there is no consensus in terms of what good governance is. That's why people can actually go home with different kind of definitions. You go home, you refer good governance at government. Go home, you see, and therefore it creates a certain kind of confusion as to what is good governance is, and therefore. So that one, if you have an endless, a word that have an endless kind of definitions, does not actually really connotates well, or it doesn't actually links well with leaders or those who actually are using. So that is one. So that is one of the weakness of trying to actually define, coming up with different kind of definitions. What does it mean? You are creating a confusion. There is actually a disagreement. It creates a multiple path to actually maybe the same kind of destination, and therefore some people can get lost along the way, and therefore coming up. The second kind of weakness, in terms of this, is it lacks differentiation. You see, normally these definitions actually, in a normal circumstances, when you are doing, when you are defining a word, or when you are trying to actually explain a phenomena, it should not collide with another. If you want to describe me, you say, what is this? And then you want to define me, you should define me as per, not confused with another person. And therefore here you find that such kind of definition that they have given, they actually sometimes refers to certain kind of issues which are not governance at all, or good governance at all. For instance, liberal democracy. You can see when you have a system of democracy, sometimes a system of democracy where people actually gather, participate in elections and what, some people refer to those, that is liberal democracy. But how can you say that this is this is good governance? You see, so it creates a certain kind of confusion again. So there is actually it is difficult to make a difference between certain things like a system of election, for instance, and governance. And therefore, sometimes it is, it creates, difficulty to actually understand. You see, for instance, political approaches that people actually take, maybe multipartism, people refer it as good governance, which is actually, not. And then, again, it lacks coherency. If you are saying, somebody is, coherent, is systematic. You can see, you state something, and then it remains the same. A person who is coherent, is a person who is consistent. It doesn't change like a chameleon. Today you are like this, tomorrow you are like that. Tomorrow you can see like when you say no, no. When you say yes, yes. When you say let us go, you can see full so. There is nothing actually outside. So when it comes to defining, the way people actually are defining, others are saying policy making, others are saying accountability, others are saying exercise of you can see. So that one actually lacks coherency. There is no systematic kind of referring to a thing, and therefore you tend now to take some kind of element of another person, dumping to another another stream, which is actually creates and then for instance sometimes when you say good governance is about you list all those kind of what about those states which actually abuses power, for instance, what can you say about that? So it becomes very it is a short-sighted kind of definition that they have provided which is actually and then the last, kind of, weakness, in terms of, these kind of definitions, they actually focus much. They don't have theoretical kind of, perspective. You see, particularly academic kind of, perspective. Normally it is much more practical because they define in terms of practicality. Ukifanya hivi, that is governance. But what about, in terms of theory, in terms of, academic kind of, can you formulate hypotheses that are predictable, that we can actually go and test, which is actually, there is no causal linkage when it comes to, doing, research. That is sometimes what we do. Is there any linkage, that A causes B? You see, when it comes to actually defining, that, they do much more practical. Good governance is, formulating policy. Rule of law. You can see, like, it's much more of doing, rather than you can see, like. So those are some of the, weaknesses of this kind of this definition of good governance. So I really hope that you'll be able to actually explain, deeper. You see, what does it mean when it comes to governance, good governance? What does these people say? You see, that one will be able to understand it better. You see, so if you look at the, all of these actually have provided, a definition, and including others. But if you look at their the way they have actually, defined, where they diverge. Because, like, for instance, good governance is about, I don't know whether you can be able to see. Let me sit down and help. You can see, public expenditure. You can see effective, allocation of resources. Property rights, budget, whatever. And then UNDP, they are saying, participation, transparency, accountability, equity. Then ADB, accountability, participation, transparency, predictability. Then OECD, efficiency of public, service. You can see, like, so all of these kind of, definitions actually are falling down, and even, scholars, so when you start actually having, this kind of, different, what does it mean? You end up, saying, governance is this, good governance is this, good, you can see, like, and therefore creating a certain kind of, confusion among people. So, leaving that behind, question, up to this. Kama mtu ana swali mpaka hapo kwenye good governance. If you have a question, or you did not actually get me well, I can actually come back and then, talk again. Msiogope jamani. This is an interactive kind of discussion. I was actually talking to those who were actually here, early, that normally, I like kind of, interaction, so that I can be able to actually come up, with a good kind of understanding. So, now, we can actually understand better good governance by looking at the characteristics of good governance. You see, what is it? When we are saying, good governance, what does it mean? What are the main features, apart from whatever we have actually discussed or seen above? So, I will just, go over. Fana World Bank, they have come up with, these characteristics: public sector management, accountability, legal framework, transparency. So for them, if you see this, you can see this is good governance. Asian development have come up with 4: accountability, participation, predictability, and transparency. You can see some of them actually keep on repeating, as main features or characteristics. Kaufman, came up with 6. Voice and accountability, government effectiveness, a lack of regulatory burden, the rule of law, independence of the judiciary, and the control of corruption. So, at least, kila mtu amekuja na characteristics that if you go through, you will come up with, a myriad kind of, characteristics or features, of, what does it, when you say good governance, apart from the definitions, but, what are the main features? What can you see on the ground, when you are saying, good governance? So, look at this, a good governance in between, and then we have here accountability, rule of law, and then transparency, and whatever information, and then others, public sector. These are as per order. So many organizations actually have come. You can actually come up with yours as long as you can be able. For instance, if there is a question, let's say, with examples, of what is happening on the ground, identify 6 or maybe 2, 3, 4 main, and discuss. Why do you think that these are, these are features or characteristics of, good governance? Because there are many. You have to defend yourself that, to me, I think these are the main why. You see, so you answer, by, providing your arguments, and then, relating with vivid examples. If you go to, Institute of Project Management, you will see accountability. See, it looks like this. You can see that, then, you'll be able to actually, we will show that, at least you actually understand. So you defend yourself. Even if, another will come up with, it's only that, that is where academic discourse is. Ability to understand and defend it academically. That's where it is. Now, here we have another characteristics, somebody gave, I say accountability means, public sector management, public enterprise, financial management, civil service reforms, and then participation, beneficiary, public sector, decentralization, cooperation. And then another one, predictability, law, legal framework, and all the stuff. Transparency, it means, for this person, accountability, participation, predictability, and transparency. These are main features of. So it is you as a academic scholar to actually come up with. Now I'm not going to discuss this. Importance of good governance. We all know to some extent. What good governance is. So it's better you actually read. What does it mean when you are saying, good governance? The word good itself, does it carry, does it make sense? Is it true that, good governance is good? You can see that one also is a debate. So, what is it now? There is something that is not working, eh? Yes? Now, why do we have to learn good governance in monitoring and evaluation? That is, that is what we are supposed to actually understand. So normally we are saying, it is actually saying, when you are actually talking about, governance, the question that arises, governance in the monitoring and evaluation. You see, the question that arises, is what specific use good governance has in monitoring and evaluation. Does monitoring and evaluation need good governance, by the way? That is, a main question that, we are trying to actually, so how can one achieve a greater accountability and, a good governance through, monitoring and evaluation? So we have two people. There are those who say that, normally, government or private organizations, these are, institutions that, particularly bigger ones, they don't need something like, governance, particularly when they have their projects, you see, because you can see like, these are huge institutions, because when you are actually, saying monitoring, you really need to actually measure performance, you see, something that you can actually see on the ground. So when you're talking governance, and then again, it is like, an abstract, is it measurable in the way, by the way? And therefore, you don't need something like, governance in the things that are not measurable. Like, government, huge, makuba, you don't need. But there are those who are saying, no, even if, these things actually are big, you can see like, you cannot measure, I don't know, whatever. But, there are certain aspects that are measurable. So, you really need to actually, account for whatever is being actually done, inside. So it is like a debate, there are two arguments. There are those who are actually saying, okay, things like, when you are talking about, government with big projects, it is very difficult to account for results. You are actually, you want to supply water to rural areas. How can you actually, it is very big. So what do you want? What are you trying to actually measure? What are you trying to see? Because you can say like, it's only that, this particular thing should actually, reach there. You don't need to. But there are those who are saying, no, even if it is like this, but, certain kind of, processes have to be followed so that you can be able to actually capture what is happening on the ground. And that's where good governance actually comes in. So, when it comes to actually monitoring and evaluation, normally, the quality of the output, when you are doing monitoring and evaluation, the quality of the output, normally has been in question for some time. You see, and therefore, people have been actually asked to actually account for whatever they are trying to actually do. And therefore, in order to actually do that, there is a call for, governance and good governance to actually come. So those are some of the, so that normally they are saying if you leave monitoring and evaluation, without governance or good governance, you are actually, it is like an exercise in futile. You will not be able to actually, see the results on the ground. You see, and therefore there is a relationship between. So there must be a certain kind of mechanism, that will be actually used to actually, pin up or push or try to actually, question what is happening on the ground. That's where good governance actually comes in. So and then again, in those days, monitoring was just, you assess, the input, output, and all this stuff. How the implementation actually. But this time around, there are a lot of factors that need to actually come in for you to actually tell that this actually was really done in a proper or appropriate way. That's where good governance actually comes in. So I tried to actually come up with I know you guys actually are good in terms of monitoring and evaluation. You have actually done it extensively. So it is now your time to tell me what is monitoring in the first place. Well, what is monitoring? Ndio.
Monitoring is just some continual activity which involving collecting data, analyzing, with the aim of make sure that the project meets its standards.
That is monitoring. So a process of trying to collect data. Do you agree with that?
Yes. Ongoing process is going on. That is continuous process in the project implementation. That's assess the performance for like monitoring the identified indicators or indicators of the different stages from inputs and from inputs up to inputs. Different from evaluation.
So what are you monitoring? What are you trying to monitor? A program or a project?
Yes.
What is a program?
Design activities.
It is
Design activities.
design the activity.
Design video.
By who that decision?
We said we need to have our own
Good. What is a project, by the way? Let me. What is evaluation?
It's an assessment of the effectiveness of the project.
Assessment of.
Effectiveness of the project.
Okay. You do an assessment of how the project is effective. That is good. In the first place, why monitoring and evaluation? And I know, you have actually, done that. There are a lot of challenges, happening when it comes to actually, implementing a project. A lot of, challenges. People may actually run out, we have challenges of performance itself. You can see, a project, resources may be made available, but disappearing in a mysterious, circumstances. You see, and then sometimes having mega projects, you lack skills. For instance, even Bwawa la Nyerere, maybe I don't know who is actually doing that. This railway line, the new actually railway line. Do we have skills? So a mega project like that, may lack skills, and therefore posing a challenge in terms of implementation of the project. And then sometimes even poor service delivery. You can have a project completed, but still some of the are the same. So you have actually answered. You have well defined. Monitoring, and as you have said, you collect information on a continuous basis, not at one point in time. If you do that, you miss a lot of so you have a program, a certain kind of a program with a defined kind of a specific kind of activity to be done, a designed one, to be carried out within a specific time. And therefore, this particular, program or a project, within that particular, if you miss, there is a possibility that it may not be able to actually be completed, or the results may be actually, So or sometimes not only a project, like sometimes even interventions, in the health sector, community and all the stuff. We have certain kind of interventions that have been carried out, that needs a specific kind of intervention. So I know you have actually done a lot in terms of monitoring and evaluation. So you actually monitor something that that's something that you want to actually really understand the results that are happening. So you monitor in terms of financial, in terms of progress, in terms of time, and all the stuff. So so that you can be able to actually the same applies to evaluation. You see, and I really hope that we'll be able to actually explain it well. Like evaluation actually, you try to assess. You see, you assess a periodic kind of, a periodic kind of, assessment. You see, of a certain kind of, project. Trying to actually see whether the intended results actually are happening, and therefore, you may be able to tell whether this one is actually, doing well or not. So, for instance, these kind of, before, what are the purpose of, monitoring? Umesema mmedefine, and the purpose? Well, purpose of monitoring is moja, ya pili, well. Ya tatu, wewe kwa umekaa kiasi sana. Uko fresh, ya tatu inaweza. Yes. So normally we do monitoring and evaluation for the for the purpose of requiring understanding whether it is going well, and also trying to actually understand where does it not going well. You see, so that a certain kind of corrective measures can actually be taken. You see, and then whether it is actually going according to the plan. You see, the information that we get can lead to a certain kind of modification or adjustments. And then information that can actually be used to improve other, like you have said, the accountability and other. Now, how do we look at good governance and the monitoring? We have seen, what monitoring and evaluation is. Now, how do we define good governance? You see, remember we have actually said monitoring and evaluation. What is it? You see, what tumesema, monitoring ni hiki, evaluation ni hiki. Monitoring is like a continuous collection of data. You see, on a certain kind of project or a program, in order to understand how it is actually, whether whatever we actually wanted to, reach is actually, going, as we wanted. So, a continuous collection of information. You see, and so how are the information collected, by the way, when you do monitoring? How do you collect data? Unachukuaje data? When you are collecting, you are doing monitoring. Which tool? Sijiko. can see like, you know, that is how, you know, when we are actually collecting data, during the monitoring. So it is a process that is a scientific one. Just like, you know, any other kind of research, particularly social science. Even, a few part of, experimental, you can actually, collect. But in social science, that is how we collect data. We use interview surveys and other stuff, you can see, to collect that. The same applies to when we are actually, doing monitoring. So, doing monitoring, it is not, just, a mere kind of process. It is a scientific process of collecting data, you see, so that you can be able to actually improve. Now, how do we actually now define good governance? When it comes to monitoring, we have seen, what monitoring is. And then there is actually a relationship. We have said there is a relationship between monitoring and, good governance. Now, how do we actually now define good governance and monitoring and, evaluation? When it comes to monitoring, because this is now a process of monitoring, you see, and evaluation. For instance, if you take, whatever kind of intervention that has been actually, initiated by the government or whatever, and then, we are doing, monitoring, for quite some, we have been doing monitoring for quite some time, collecting data and putting, and then you can say like, in the process, we find ourselves, obliged to actually invite or, use, good governance as part of the, monitoring, improving monitoring process. Now, how do we define monitoring then in the, when it comes to actually monitoring and evaluation, good governance is a willingness on the part of the policymakers and program planners and implementers to be subjected to a critical review of their action and to learn from such assessment. So there are a lot of definitions actually given here. You see, so these people who are actually implementing or involving in this particular project, are they actually saying the willingness of these people to be actually subjected to scrutiny, you see, of the program that actually they are implementing, you see, and that is a very difficult, difficult point when it comes to when you define, this particular in this way, it becomes very difficult. Is it, first of all, is it possible that maybe I'm a CEO of a certain kind of a project, a good one, with a lot of kind of resources, spilling all over, can I subject myself to scrutiny? You see, because when you are implementing a project, it means, there are a lot of, one will be actually benefiting out of it. You see, so is he or she, can she or he subject himself to scrutiny? Can people scrutinize him, about whatever he's doing inside? Huko jikoni unapika, unaonja, watu wanakwenda kuuliza, bwana wewe mwenzetu huko unakula, mbona kama umeshiba hivi? You see, so that is how, here, good governance is actually being done. Can a person who is actually cooking a nice meal inside, and then others are actually standing outside, just smelling a nice kind of, can they actually ask, about what is happening in the kitchen, whether the food is ready or whether the man is actually, so is it possible to actually do that? That's where they are saying good governance is when it comes to monitoring and evaluation. You see, so it is a robust monitoring system that operates with a good measure of success only within enabling environment. That monitoring and evaluation can actually a monitoring and evaluation system can actually operate only when there are good measures, good things to measure, success, when remembering. So United Nations, for Social and Economic Commission for Asia and the Pacific defines good governance in monitoring and evaluation as a process of decision making. You see, a process of decision making, and the process by which decisions are being implemented or not, in a corporate, local, national, or international, context. So for them, good governance is a result of collective interaction, of decision making and implementing action of various actors and institutions concerned, including those in both public and private. You see, so when it comes to actually good governance in monitoring and evaluation, we are not again talking about just like the way good governance was defined broadly, generally, across. When it comes to monitoring and evaluation, good governance is about ability to invite others, ability to actually question, ability to actually make a collaborative kind of decision making. It is not an individual kind of decision making. Ability to question what is happening on the ground. You see, that is where good governance is when it comes to monitoring and evaluation. We have said, the process of monitoring and evaluation, actually, you collect data, you do whatever you do in order to understand what is happening on the ground. Now, in order to have a true picture of what is happening on the ground, you need many people to actually see whether what you are actually telling is happening on the ground is true. That's where good governance is. Jamani, tunaelewana? Jamani, tunaelewana, tuelewana? Ni hatuelewani. Good governance inasemaje kwenye monitoring and evaluation? Wewe mimi nakuona hata usikilizi kabisa. Yaani huko. Sasa labda munyo kwanza chai. Can we have tea first?
That's almost done.
It is almost time. Yeah, you do that. Okay. Tunywe kwanza chai. Lakini I really want you to understand that we have said about GG. GG generally, it is about whatever others have defined. We have seen. It is about transparency. But the same can actually be applied in monitoring and evaluation, as we will see later. But what are the defining features? How do we define good governance in the spheres of monitoring and evaluation? That's what I really wanted us to understand. But we will have much more understanding. Jamani, twendeni tu mkanye chai kwanza. Mjiandae na maswali kwa hivyo. Mbona nasema sawa?
We are ready.
nirekebishe mapema ni defend, maana pia naweza nikasafiri tarehe 23. 2 weeks. Leo ya mwisho ndio
kuna kipimo.
kufanyika.
Here you go, for example,
Okay. Okay, we ended up there. We're actually talking about how do we actually understand good governance in the framework of monitoring and evaluation. And we have actually tried to actually understand monitoring and evaluation itself. It is actually a process that requires a certain kind of scrutiny, somebody from outside to assist in the scrutinization of the process, so that to avoid hiding of some of the information, or neglect of some of the important aspects that are required to be known to the public, and then holding those who are actually involved in the implementation of the accountable. And therefore, good governance in the framework of monitoring and evaluation is actually a process of time to make an open mind kind of process, particularly when you are carrying out monitoring and evaluation. And we all know that we will come up to actually analyze the process of monitoring and evaluation itself, and how each component actually needs a certain kind of governance in it. And I know you have actually gone through the process, and you know the process of monitoring. And when we come back, it will be just like a repetition, and adding to what we understand so far. And therefore, you should also be able to actually define, what it means, good governance when it comes to actually the process, of monitoring and evaluation. And I hope you will be able to actually tell, at the end of the day, we will be able to actually tell how monitoring itself, is subjected to good governance, and how evaluation itself is subjected to good governance. But so far we are saying it is actually a collective kind of, decision making. It is not an individual kind of decision making. For instance, when we are collecting data, for the process of monitoring and evaluation, for instance, you can use, whatever kind of method that you have actually said. But how do you go about, the process itself is linked to actually, the process of data collection itself is linked to good governance, because you will have to involve people. You see, when it comes to, that aspect, it is participation. And then, if it is about the data, what are the quality of the data that is being actually collected? And therefore, you'll find that, the definition that has been provided, you don't take it, generally as we defined, in the initial process, because those definitions that were given as, a general kind of understanding of good governance, actually, some of them, maybe, I'm not sure whether it is the World Bank or what, at least it has a component of, collaboration, but the rest, they are very, general, in terms of, policy making or whatever. But, a definition of good governance in the monitoring, the process of monitoring requires multiple stakeholders, as you carry out. And therefore, if you involve a lot of people in the process of carrying out monitoring and evaluation, that one, there is a likelihood of actually having a picture of good governance in itself. So, when you are defining, make sure that you relate, with the issues of good, but from a bigger picture of participation of a different kind of actors. So, it is said, for instance, here, the government at the national level, industry, trade unions, civil society, influential individuals, and even the media, actually are part of the whole process of monitoring. So monitoring is not actually a process that is actually being owned by a single person. If you put it like that, then you are minimizing for it to be looked like being actually as taken as governed in a participatory manner. So a lot of players actually have to be involved when you are actually carrying out the process. So here again we are saying good governance. There is another person who is trying to actually define, saying it refers to a situation. You see, good governance, when it comes to monitoring, it refers to a situation in which a set of institutions here, a set of institutions, not a single, a set of institutions and actors combined to lead to a sound process of decision making, you see, and implementation. For instance, when you judge, for instance, when you do, evaluation, normally, there is this kind of, judgmental, a decision making that is being, you see, you assess and then, normally, a judgmental kind of decision making, it has pitfalls, like bias and all the stuff. So how do you ensure that, of course, it is a method of, making evaluation. You cannot actually downplay it, but how do you ensure that you avoid those, elements of bias? That's where good governance actually comes in. So it is actually, when you are saying it is a combined, a set of combined process, it is not a narrow process that, a single people can actually go through. It should be a wide process whereby a lot of people can actually go through and see what is happening on the ground. Now, whether it is doable or not, that is another case. But, to this, particular perspective, when you are talking about good governance, in terms of monitoring and evaluation, it is about allowing a lot of actors, it is a concerted effort of different kind of, actors trying to see what is happening on the ground. You see, that is where, that is what good governance means. So, implementation of the projects, if they are subjected to a lot of, more than one eye, that is what good governance is. Compared to when you are just, defining, broadly. So all programs, policies, and projects, if they are being subjected to a broad scrutiny of different kind of individuals, including here, as you have said, including, trade unions, which is actually, association of workers, and then we have, civil societies, and then we have even individual, people. And even, the media, and you know how powerful the media is. It's like the fourth arm of the government. And therefore, if all these actually are being allowed to actually participate in the process of monitoring and evaluation, that one will be actually good governance. Now, you can actually, find an example, for instance. Find an example of a project. I want you to do this. Find an example of a project, whatever you think, and then, identify just one component. Identify one component. You remember we have actually, giving a definition that, if you have, a process where, different kind of set of actors are being allowed to actually air out their views, then, that one actually is being regarded as good governance. You are dividing. You can say like it is a process whereby different people are coming, scrutinizing. That is good governance in the monitoring. So, for instance, the recent kind of debate, they just concluded debate of what is it? The Bandari thing. You see, you remember how rigorous the debate was. So it was subjected to the National Assembly. Look at the way, it elicited, reactions from different angles. Individual people, the social media, the mainstream media, and even, the legal fraternity, people from the legal fraternity. All the stuff, you can say like, even individuals, at their own level, trying to actually discuss. Others actually, giving, a fair kind of opinion. Others actually are just, mocking at the process. Others are just, doing whatever. But to some extent, can you tell that that was actually good governance, for you? Can we say that that was actually an example of a good governance? Of course, apart from saying, we will be actually coming to say, okay, you look for one project, that requires a serious kind of, looking at it from a good governance perspective. Maybe that one. Can you tell that, was it, a fair way of trying actually? Probably yes, probably no. It depends. But how was it done? Because it should actually be a scientific process. It should be a process just like, all those processes. Because were we there when they were actually formulating, when they were entering the contract, we were not there, you see, it just came abruptly from nowhere. Oh, the side, because like nobody knows. But at least the government tried to actually allow people to do what? To me, I think they tried. It is the best kind of approach. What if they did not come up with, it was much more work, but they had tried. To me, I think, that was actually recommendable. It was a recommendable kind of, work. Of course, taking it to Parliament, it was much more, because you can see that is the only platform. Because the Parliament is actually a representation, an instrument that consists representative of people. And therefore, if it was taken there, it means I was supposed to actually, my member of Parliament was speaking on my behalf. You see, if he actually interrogated about the validity of the contract, that is okay. But if he did it, that is okay also. But to me, I think, it was, I don't know, about you, but for me, it was a nice kind of, good governance that was actually, brought in, for the first time, vigorous kind of, discussion. It was nice. So, when it comes to, actually good governance, we are actually saying, this is actually a definition that is saying, good governance is actually when a set of combined. When you are actually coming to actually, explain what is good governance. I don't think you will actually go to, good governance is, principles, but you define in the context of monitoring and evaluation that it is actually a set of institutions coming together, to actually make a decision and implementation of policies that contribute, you can see, with no one left behind. You can see, we all come on board. We are being all involved. You all, we involve people to actually, make it, because you can see, like, when they come together, it becomes, easy to actually see the kind of, deficiencies. You can see discrepancies existing within, the project itself, and therefore it becomes easy to pinpoint and highlight, those things that are needed to actually, be amended or even, make, adjustment of all the stuff. So, under monitoring and evaluation, good governance is a process that involves active participants. You see, it is a process that involves active participants in intervention. Whatever kind of intervention that is actually, likely to be carried out, you involve people, you allow people to participate, and then, you allow them to participate, by taking the lead, and then track and analyzing progress towards a joint agreed results. Normally, when we do monitoring, there are certain kind of, results. We have the output, and then we have the impact. You see, and then we have the inputs. So that process from the input, the process itself, and then the output, even the impact, that process, the whole of it, it should actually be subjected to, unless writing the report, even like, but dissemination of the report requires a lot of, people to actually, participate and see whether, you see. So this approach contributes to the demand, planning, and decision making for improved accountability. So you will find that when you actually look at the process, if you define, monitoring and evaluation in that way, that it is a process that requires a lot of people to actually participate, then you will find that those characteristics, those characteristics of, we will see, here, some of the characteristics that were actually said in the general, appears again, in the, monitoring and evaluation. So you will find that characteristics actually, keeps on, some of them actually keeps on repeating. So good governance in monitoring and evaluation means, generally now, not the definition, but the understanding of it. It is actually a management tool that is used to improve decision and intervention. Decision of intervention. So normally we actually make a decision. Problem it is actually an intervention. It is actually meant to actually improve or correct something that actually exists within a society. and therefore it is actually a decision-making tool. So when you are actually saying good governance, it is actually a management tool that is used to actually understand what is actually happening on the ground. So it enables actually to identify elements from inputs to impacts. You see, all those processes from inputs to impact actually will be able to actually subject them to good governance indicators. For instance, when you are developing indicators in the monitoring process, some of the indicators actually requires other people to see. You see, requires other people to actually get involved, and therefore being able to come up with a nice kind of so development changes. You cannot actually get development in isolation. For instance, when you are talking about the results of monitoring, you see, unasema tumefanya monitoring, you mpaka sasa you are actually writing a project. What kind of monitoring are you going? What kind of a project are you likely to go and examine on the. Kwa mfano nyinyi mnapoandika research proposal unaenda kufanya nini? Si inabidi utafute project kabisa. Kwa sababu mimi sehemu ambayo nafundisha yani it is you can see like people are very fine. Yani mtu anafanya masters ya accounts, anaandika thesis ya human resource. Mtu anafanya masters ya project plan, anaandika thesis yake ile liko la informatics. The effectiveness of IT. Sasa wewe unafanya nini kwanza? Yaani kwa mfano wewe project planner, yaani project monitor. Umejiandaa kumonitor mradi gani? Au na wewe thesis yako haihusiani na monitoring?
Inahusiana na moja mnaenda kwa wewe implementation ya
mradi gani?
unaitwa advanced
Kama unataka HIV bado iko advanced, imemutate. Lakini si kuna nimesikia kama kuna nini hii inaitwa chanjo kwa Kiingereza inaitwa vaccine. Yes, I'm sure. Jamani, kuna ukimwi siku hizi kweli? Watu wale walokonda kabisa hivi siku hizo. Okay. So the way, my worry is, you may come up with a very nice kind of idea, but going on the ground, you may end up not getting data because the thing doesn't exist. Lakini wewe unaamini hiyo project yako hii, on the ground. Unasema ni mradi wako? Nani ilifanywa nani? Okay, it makes sense if I don't kill you. Wewe mtoto mzuri wewe project yako ndio research proposal. Abro? You in project ya? My question was like, if you look at the project that you are actually going, to collect data, you see, of course you will have to actually understand how it went, you see, and then are you going to do monitoring or to just assess, or just what are you going to do? You are going to assess, not to monitor. Okay, so my question was, does the process require a certain kind of participatory Yes, but because you're actually doing data, it isn't. So, you know, maybe I should ask you that as you go out there, you can actually really observe whether there was in the carrying out of the project itself. It doesn't have to involve with you. It should not be an input to your study. Just along the way, whatever you have learned, in the class as part of the monitoring and evaluation, you can actually go and observe it on the ground. You see, so all of you, I really like if you are really carrying out your research on a specific project, then whatever. It should also be like a practical thing. You see, it should also be like a practical thing, like a familiarization of what you have learned in the class. Some of things that you have actually acquired in the class, whether they exist on the ground. Regardless of whatever kind of study that you are carrying on. One of them, I really wanted you to go and see. If it is actually, the immunization, I don't know, whatever. But, the process of it, was it participatory? When the project was developed, who was subjected to the process? Was it scrutinized, along the implementation? How long did it take for it to actually be implemented? And what kind of people actually participated in the process of implementation? From the inception to the end. And if that was done, then you can actually come up and get a clear picture of what we are talking about. And people do not know what is happening on the ground. It is just kept in the dark, because if we open, people will run away. You see, if we invite people to come and see, people will run away. Say, oh, so it is something that really actually need a lot of people actually participate and see what is happening on the ground. So people should actually be encouraged. The process is because participation. Yes, good. I like that. Ask that question. I want to eat it.
My concern is on that subject of participation.
What?
That subject, the issue of participation.
Yes.
Example of what is going on in the Bandari thing, and also referring the shifting from one party to multi-party.
Yes. That was also a good example.
It's like the people did not agree on that change, but it was the decision of the top level that we must change. So that's a good governance, because basically the decision of the people was not considered.
Was not considered.
Yeah, the whole movement of Kuzin to the democracy point of view. So what I was trying to understand is participation.
It's participation. When it comes to understanding good governance in the field like this one, participation actually, even proponents of good governance itself, they are actually saying in whatever kind of activity that is carried out, or in whatever processes in the society, whatever, particularly when that particular thing affects, the decision of that particular thing affects a lot of people, unless it is individual. But if it is not individual, then a decision of people, actually a participation of people actually should be given a wider kind of, space. However, coming to your actually question, you are saying, when, Tanzania actually, was about to make a U-turn from single party to multi-partyism, that there was a participation of people in terms of, whether we should actually move or not. The decision to move actually was of a few majority, and the larger population actually were, in contrary to the opinion. However, when it comes to participation, I understand you are saying, does it make sense when, does it make sense to have participation when, people can participate only to end up their decision to be thrown away? You see, does it make sense? You see, why should we subject ourselves to a process where the decision, at the end of the day, the decision will be thrown away? You see, why should it be that, So, my answer to that is like this. First, when you are actually carrying out a participatory kind of move, the benefit arising out of participation is not only the final end. A lot of things here will come out. When, for instance, when, that discussion was brought forward to actually either go or, remain, remember, what kind of discussion came out? A lot of people gave their opinion. This is the advantage, this is not the advantage, and, these are, the kind of, effect that we are likely to face. RAEO is going to happen, and therefore, those kind of discussion that comes out, first of all, it enlightens your understanding of the issue. It gives you, the weaknesses of the, what is likely to happen, and then again, it even gives you, also a solution. If this actually happens, then we will actually do this, regardless of the kind of decision that is likely to happen at the end. Secondly, when people make a decision, when a decision is actually made at the end of the day, remember, democracy is not only about the majority. You see, it's not only about the majority. A decision can actually be made in favor of the few, because even the few have the voice. You see, not only when we are actually in a democratic country, so it's not only the winners takes all. It's not only that, because a lot of people say, maybe sometimes a lot of people can actually say, but under a certain kind of influence. Maybe, the few actually have a wider view of, for instance, can you regret now to have multi-partyism? You cannot regret. You can see, a lot of actually has happened, and multi-partyism has influenced a lot of, democratic space. You see, so what if we had continued with single party? Even if a lot of people actually were in favor of it. You see, sometimes a few people can actually have a very nice kind of decision. It's only that they don't have their way. You see, so when you listen to the few, then sometimes it is good. You just look at the merit of the decision. Sometimes it can actually bring a very positive kind of a change compared to the views of the many. And therefore, the advantage arising out of participation is not only the end itself, but even the process. Some of the things that were not actually seen will actually become. You can say, like, when they were discussing, a lot of people, for instance, if you take even this one, the recent debate, a lot of people have discussed. They have pointed out weaknesses of actually going on with it, and advantage of going with the rest. And then some people have even cautioned that if we take this particular route, then these are some of the problems that we are likely to face. These are kind of predicaments that we are likely to face. These are like kind of advantage that we are likely to accrue. And therefore you find that a lot of things that will come. But at the end of the day, the decision will be made whether to go or not to go. But here again, you have actually given a space to identify some of the problems that if it wasn't for this kind of discussion, we wouldn't be able now to understand problems and advantages that would arise out of this particular problem. So you see, participation actually is very much important, particularly when it comes to projects or programs, because you can see, like, projects have a lifespan, and they siphon a lot of resources compared to other processes, which are sometimes I think can actually go, it doesn't have any value, people can discuss. But when it comes to projects or programs, these are very important kind of aspects which actually needs attention of people, and therefore if you take them silently, you will find that at the end of the day maybe people will not be able to actually benefit if at all you don't allow them to participate. Of course, participation in what sense we will actually come to see because for instance there are a lot of ways to participate, you see. That one also is actually a question of to debate, because you can see, like, representative democracy, individual democracy, where a person get to involve with self-direct. That's where shida iko. Lakini you have asked a very nice kind of question, and I really like it. Good question. Kwamba si lazima, not necessarily ile decision ya mwisho, lakini when people participate, kuna vitu vingi vitaibuka hapa, and people will be able to actually hata nyumbani, there are people who are very dictators, at home. You want to buy a car, you don't involve the family, you see. You collect your money, a project, kimya for a year. Watu wanakula ugali na maharage kila siku hiyo unakuja nalo vu. Unasema sasa watu wanaanza pale bora galeje mbaya sijui. Alina macho sijui. Lakini kumbe ungewashirikisha kwamba nataka kununua gari, bwana nunua hili linakula mafuta, hili halifanyi hivi, like at the end of the day we come up with a very nice kind of kuliko ile umekaa peke yako unasema bibi yani hapa tutawafanyia surprise. You can see, like, that is in terms of monitoring and evaluation, that is so good governance. You can see, like, good governance and monitoring and evaluation, these are mutually dependent. You can see there are processes that depends on each other. See, they are not independent, they are dependent. You see, one actually provides inputs to the other, and the other provides inputs to the other. So they depend. If one cannot actually exist independently, they actually have to for them to actually, for one to actually function, properly, one has to actually be part of the other. And therefore, we have things like, our rule of law, which is actually, it is our representation of civil society, support and compliance with policy. And then we have accountability, which is actually about public opinion, consultations, evaluations, and then transparency, which is actually a public education. People have to actually understand what is actually going on, when it. And then, participation, for instance, when in the monitoring, when you are developing a log frame, there has to be a collaboration, with the beneficiaries, those who are actually likely to benefit from the project. How do you involve them? Those who are likely to benefit, stakeholders, people who actually own the project. Kwa mfano wewe unafanya project yako, kuna watu wataathirika. And then these people do not understand anything that is going on until it is actual. So how are they going to understand what is going on, which is actually, so at the end of the day they lack commitment, they lack morale to actually participate, and therefore it ends up like this. So for instance, from the design to the inception, how are you involving people in the process, you see? And then most projects, for instance, flexibility process, most projects actually if you don't, involve people, they are undertaken under uncertainty because, nobody knows what is actually going to happen in the. For instance, when you are carrying result-based evaluation in the monitoring, the same actually, happen. From different kind of components of the result-based evaluation, one has to actually understand what is happening. So even development of goals and strategy. When you are developing goals, during the developing, when you want to do monitoring, then also people should actually be involved. Even when you are allocating resources, also they should actually understand. So the emphasis actually is on sustained coordinated efforts that bring together leaders and citizens together in support of a common goal. So the process itself should actually be of a common goal. Jamani, mimi nimechoka. Nyie wenzangu,
Umechoka.
yani 3 hours is not a joke. What? You can collapse instantly. Tutaendelea kesho. Kwanza I say sorry. Kwamba I am not fond of PowerPoint. Yani mimi notes zangu ni hivi. Yani so you should actually get used to me. If you used to have a PowerPoint, me yani niko allergic na PowerPoint. So I will actually give you these notes so that you can be able to go through. Msome kweli. Kuna watu mimi nawapaga notes na bado wanapata 2. I don't want you to to go through the same kind of experience. But I'm not so kweli. You can see, read rigorously so that you can be able to get something of your own. Any question even as we wind up? Yes? I did not. Mimi nishajitambulisha, wewe umefika umechelewa. Mimi naitwa Lucy. My name is Lucy. I will be taking you through this particular model, this particular week. Jina langu liko hiyo. Nani anisia? Lucia. A question, please. Anything out of Oh, I just wanted you to give Sierra, nipe namba yako ya simu. I will send you a question. Mko wangapi kwanza? Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4.